60 hours. That is how long Harrison Okene spent trapped at the bottom of the ocean, 30 meters beneath the surface, in total darkness, breathing from a shrinking pocket of air inside a steel tomb that used to be his ship. 11 of his crewmates were already dead. He did not know if anyone was coming for him, and he had no way of knowing that the men who would finally reach him were not coming to save him at all. They were coming to collect the bodies. This is the true story of the man the ocean refused to keep. It begins in the early hours of the 26th of May, off the coast of Nigeria. The Jascon-4 was a tugboat, a heavy, powerful vessel working to steady an oil tanker in the rolling waters of the Atlantic. On board were 12 men. Harrison Okene was the cook. 29 years old, quiet, well-liked, a long way from home. That night he could not sleep, so he left his cabin and walked down the narrow corridor toward the bathroom. It was a small decision, a trip to the toilet in the middle of the night, and it was the only reason he is alive today. Because at around 4:30 in the morning, the sea turned on them. A sudden, violent swell hit the Jascon-4 broadside. There was no warning. One moment the ship was rolling gently in the dark, and the next it was tipping further and further past the point of no return. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Loose objects became missiles. And then the lights died. In the pitch black, the world turned upside down, and the ocean came pouring in through every open door. Harrison was thrown against the walls as the ship capsized around him. Freezing seawater surged up his legs, his chest, his neck. He fought through the flooding corridor in complete darkness, feeling for anything, any way out. He forced his way into an officer's cabin, and then into the small bathroom beyond it. And there, in that tiny space, the rising water suddenly stopped. It reached his chest, and it held. He had found a pocket of air. A bubble maybe 4 feet high, trapped against the ceiling of a ship that was now sinking, upside down toward the seabed. Around him, in the darkness, he could hear it. The ship groaning, metal tearing, and the muffled, terrible sounds of the other men. And then, one by one, the sound stopped, until there was only Harrison and the water and the dark. The Jascon-4 came to rest on the ocean floor, 30 meters down, fully inverted, and Harrison Okene was sealed inside it. Think about what he faced. He was wearing nothing but a pair of boxer shorts. The water around him was cold enough to kill a man through slow exposure. He was in absolute darkness, so complete that his eyes were useless, hour after hour after hour. He could not see the water rising. He could only feel it. And that air pocket, the only thing keeping him alive, was not infinite. Every breath he took was using it up and filling the space with carbon dioxide. He was very slowly suffocating in the dark. But Harrison did not give up. In the blackness, he felt his way around his shrinking world. He found a life vest floating nearby and pulled it on. He located a small wall platform above the waterline and dragged himself up onto it, out of the worst of the cold. He tore fabric to try to keep warm. And then, with nothing left to do, he waited. He prayed. He spoke to God in the darkness, and he made promises. He thought about his wife. He counted the seconds and lost count, over and over. Time stopped meaning anything. Was it day? Was it night? There was no way to know. There was only the cold and the dark, and the sound of his own breathing growing shallower. 1 hour became 10. 10 became 30. 30 became 50. His body began to shut down. His skin, soaking in seawater for days, started to break apart. His mind drifted between prayer and hallucination. And still no one came. Because on the surface, the world had already written him off. The company knew the Jascon-4 had gone down. 12 men lost at sea. There were no survivors. There could not possibly be survivors. This was now a recovery operation. A grim job to bring the dead back to their families. And so, nearly 3 days after the ship sank, a dive team descended into the murky water. Their orders were simple and heartbreaking. Find the bodies. Recover the crew. One of the divers, moving carefully through the wreck, reached the flooded corridors deep inside the overturned hull. His torch cut a thin beam through the gloom. He was searching for the dead. And in the darkness ahead of him, a hand reached out and touched his. The diver recoiled in absolute shock. Down there, 30 meters deep, 3 days into a wreck full of corpses, something had just grabbed him. And then a face appeared in his torchlight. Eyes wide. Very much alive. Harrison Okene, after 60 hours alone at the bottom of the sea, was looking straight at the first human being he had seen since the ship went down. The moment was captured on the diver's camera, and it stunned the world. You can hear the shock in the control room as they realize what has happened. A survivor, an impossible living survivor, pulled from a tomb of steel and water. But even then, it was not over. Harrison had been breathing air at high pressure for 2.5 days. Bringing him straight to the surface would have killed him instantly. So the divers fitted him with a mask, calmed him, and slowly, carefully brought him up before sealing him inside a decompression chamber for another 60 hours, letting his body safely adjust to a world he had almost never seen again. 11 of his crewmates did not come home. Harrison never forgot that. He carried it with him. But he also carried something else. A second chance that almost no one in history has ever been given. And here is the part that says everything about the man. After surviving the very worst that the ocean could do to him, Harrison Okene did not run from the sea. He went back to it. He trained for years to become a professional deep-sea diver himself. The same darkness that nearly killed him, he chose to face again on his own terms. Not as a victim, as someone who had looked into the deepest, coldest dark imaginable and found a way to keep breathing. 60 hours at the bottom of the ocean. Alone. In the cold and the black. And he walked out the other side. If this story moved you, take a second to like this video and subscribe, because stories like Harrison's deserve to be remembered. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.